All right, today is day 5. I'm going to talk about copywriting. Copywriting is my thing. Like, I love words. I love obsessing about words. I look at marketing as applied psychology, and I get to use words to see how that plays out in people's behavior and what they respond to and what they like and what they don't like. And I just think it's so fascinating and fun. I've written several million words over the past decade. I have generated somewhere around 30 million-ish in revenue for clients with my words, 10 million or so of that specifically in the coaching space. One of the things I'm most proud of is that I wrote an email series for a client, and she actually had people asking to get on her list because people said the emails were that good, that they were excited for more of them. So I love creating copy that people are excited to read. One of my core beliefs is that people's attention spans have not actually gotten shorter. Their standards have just gotten higher, right? Like, look at Netflix and all these streaming companies that would dump an entire season all at once, and people would sit there the entire weekend, 8, 10, 12 hours, and just binge an entire series, right? Or they'll go back to a show that they've seen 3, 4, 5 times and binge it again. You know, I have friends who will go through the entire Harry Potter series an entire weekend once a year because they love it that much, right? So our attention spans are still there. It's just what you're saying isn't that interesting, right? And that's okay. And it's okay because we have like gotten to this place of copy and paste marketing where so much stuff is templates that you can almost tell like who someone learned from or what course they took just by the way that their copy is structured, whether it's an email or a Facebook post or a video that they do. It's become so formulaic that it's just not interesting anymore. You know, like we already know the punchline. It's like hearing a joke for the 50th time. It's no longer interesting, right? But it's actually really easy to write really good copy as a coach, a business owner, like from, you know, like instead of hiring out, like talking as someone who's been a freelance copywriter for 10 years, I think is extremely helpful for business owners to learn how to write copy first before they hire out for it. You will have such a better experience with copywriters and people that you work with if you know a bit more about like how it all works and like what's good, what's not good, things like that. So here's kind of my primer on copywriting, the main things I think about, the way I think about writing copy, and I'm going to try to explain it in such a way that someone who isn't a copywriter and doesn't really want to be a copywriter can use this to write better copy, whether it's video, blog posts, text, you know, anything like that. Soap opera series or soap opera sequences for emails have been done so wrong. Let me start that over again. Nearly everybody gets the soap opera sequence email series just completely wrong. And it's really sad because it's such a powerful tool. It's how I write email series that people actually like ask to get on the list. That sort of true story from a client. And where people go wrong is they think each email in that sequence trying to sell whatever product coaching thing that they're doing, it's just a story. And each one is an individual story that kind of lives totally on its own. And you just test out a bunch of these different stories and see which one gets the highest clicks and hopefully the most buys. And then you write more like that and you replace those. And it's not modular like that, right? You can't just tell a story about some random thing and make this loose connection and tie to your product and buy my stuff. It doesn't work. It's boring. You know, it's how you get, 5%, 10%, 15% open rates because people just know like, oh, it's going to be more of the same. It's going to be more of the same, right? So the way that you need to look at soap opera sequences, or at least the way that I look at soap opera sequences, is through this idea of a belief ladder or a chain of beliefs, right? I like the ladder analogy because you have to imagine that your audience is looking into this wall, right? And you're up at the top of the wall and you can see over it. And you're like, hey, come on up. Like, it's awesome up here. It's like really awesome. But it's a high wall and they're looking up there and they're like, oh my God, I don't know if I believe you yet, right? Like, I don't believe you yet. I'm not ready to climb up there. So each rung in this ladder, you have to help them believe the same things that you believe, and you have to do it in a certain order so it makes sense, right? It's one of the best ways I can put it, right, is someone needs to first believe that they should do paid advertising before they're going to believe that they should use Facebook ads, right? And they need to believe that Facebook ads is the best way to advertise their business before they're going to consider using your Facebook ads agency, right? So you need to make sure that you're stacking these beliefs in a logical order that help your prospects, that help your audience climb up that ladder so that they can see over the wall and see the same things you do. And if you look at it from that like backwards perspective of like, okay, before they can believe that like I am the person that they should give their hard-earned money to, what do they need to believe before that, right? And what do they need to believe before that? And you kind of keep walking that back until you get to the point where they are. Let's see what's next in there. Oh, yeah, and one of the ways and one of the reasons that this is so helpful is it kind of almost becomes like an outline for your copy, especially if you're doing a multi-part email series or a long-form sales letter. It really helps organize your thoughts in kind of that logical way. You know, that's one of the areas where so many people get stuck with copy, is they don't know where they're trying to get to. So as they write, they run out of ideas. Or the reverse, or not the reverse, but another thing that often happens is it's all kind of disjointed, where like here's an idea and then here's another idea and then here's a third idea, and they're all kind of related to the product, but they aren't related to each other. So it just kind of feels jarring when you jump around like that. It's like, oh, wait, what happened to this thing? This wasn't resolved yet. So kind of working through those chain of beliefs, or those rungs on that belief ladder, can really help organize those thoughts. And then from there, what you want to do is consider and look at a theme and a narrative arc that can go across that entire sales letter or across that entire email series, where the soap opera part of it and that story part of it that people kind of like get twisted is where all this comes in, right? So when you think of a soap opera, you think of all these different storylines that are opening and closing throughout an entire season of it, right? And that's how you have to think of this long-form sales letter or this email series as a whole entire season. And each email in there, or each kind of part of that sales letter, is an individual episode. It's its own little story that adds up to the season, right? So you have to kind of take the systems thinking approach to your writing, and think about how each of these little parts make into that greater whole, right? And that's where that belief ladder comes in. Each of those stories, each of those individual emails tackle one of those different beliefs, right? So you write or share a story about how a client was doing organic whatever, Facebook, social media, blog posts, stuff like that. And they were getting some traffic, and then some big change happened with the algorithm or whatever, and everything plummeted, and all their leads dried up, right? And then you showed them paid advertising. Stories like that, you know. Tell another story about how someone was using Google ads for a market that wasn't good for Google ads simply because some course Guru said use Google ads, but didn't, know that this was not a good industry for it. And you show them that Facebook ads is way better, right? So different things like that, different stories in there is how you can actually kind of tell a cohesive narrative. And one of my favorite themes and narrative arcs to use is either like an us versus them or a guide alongside type of thing. I'm a big fan of journey-based marketing storytelling, right? Especially when it comes to coaching and online courses, stuff like that, because usually these products are based around something that's going to be a journey, right? There's no real like end to it. I think that's where a lot of people kind of get courses wrong. It's not like, oh, I'm going to take this one course, know everything I need to know, and be done with it. It's like, no, like each course is kind of a gateway to a new thing and a new bit of growth or a new interest or whatever it might be. So this is all a journey, and you want your audience to opt into this journey with you, right? That's essentially what we're doing, is getting people to raise their hand and say, yeah, like I like the path that you're on, and I want to come on this too. Like you're my person. You're the person I want to follow. Like I know that you're a little bit ahead of me, and that's awesome, and I want to know what you know. That's essentially what we're trying to do. So we need to, as best as we can, come up with stories and narratives that help facilitate that journey. And whether you have a really good case study where you have a client that kind of went through that whole narrative arc of only doing organic or not believing in paid advertising, you showed them all this stuff and then they're like, oh my God, my business is great now. Something like that, where you act as that guide alongside and you're kind of narrating this whole story and explaining kind of your process, different things like that is a great way. If you're selling something that's more transformational, I guess, whether it's like mindset or different things like that, or like or your own personal story, your own personal journey of struggle, can be very effective as well. That's kind of taking that guide role again and going, saying, hey, these are the potholes that I found. These are the dangerous parts that you can avoid because I've already mapped out the territory. So that's another effective way to create that story, right? And again, like each of those different beliefs on the ladder can be their own stories and their own emails, right? Sometimes you'll open up an idea in one email and then you won't come back to it until another one. A really easy way to do that is introduce a topic and then just say more on that later, right? Or the PS in email. I know a lot of people use the PS as a way to recap for the people who skim down to the bottom. I prefer to use the PS as a way to open up a loop to the next email, right? I do not want people skipping down to the bottom of my emails. Like if they do, I want them to be confused and have to go back up to the top, because if they're not willing to take the time to read a 500 or 1,000 word email, which I know, oh my God, 1,000 words, that's crazy. I get 60+% open rates on 1,000+ word emails, and then the next day those open rates hold on another 1,000 word email. So it's fine. You just have to know how to structure it to tell those stories, right? Because if you can hold their attention and tell a good story, there's a lot more that you can convey in 1,000 words than you can in 500. And each time you can do that effectively helps build that trust with your audience, and that's what really ultimately leads them to make that buying decision. They have to know on the front end that you understand where they are, you understand how to take them where they want to be, you know where they want to be, and either that you've done it yourself or you've helped enough other people like them, right? That's why you tell these different stories. Like they have to know that you have helped people like them before, whether it's you, yourself, other people, things like that. And it's really hard to do that if you are, just telling random stories about that time you went to the grocery store and were able to pay for someone's groceries because you made all this money with a Facebook ads agency, so they should do that too, right? Like, oh, what? I don't know, that's weird. That stuff is weird. Let's see. So that kind of leads somewhat into the next point there. Is like it's much more effective when people can naturally come to the conclusion to take the next action, right? Whether that's buy a program, get on a call, things like that. You want to, I know there's this really strong belief in copywriting. It really comes from a direct response copywriting perspective, is that you need to, that the audience is quote unquote dumb and they need to be told exactly what to do next. Click the button, click the link, this, that, the other thing. And I detest that belief system because I think if you believe your audience is that dumb, you're not really going to connect with them, right? Because it's hard to connect with someone that you think so poorly of that you have to tell them all of these things, right? Like, I don't know, like, that's weird to me. I want people to read my copy and feel compelled to click the link and be like, oh my god, yeah, like after reading that, like I have to get on the call with this guy, like I want to talk to him more, right? I will hunt down the link. Oh, he didn't put the link in there, like I will go to the website, right? And I know people who do things like that, effectively do things like that, and it is absolutely possible if you take a little bit of time and care about your audience more and really care about the things that they're struggling with and how you can help them with that and be authentic with that, right? That's kind of like the cool thing about looking at copy this way, is it becomes easy because the truth is very easy to write, right? Like when you aren't trying to like stretch your thinking to have this loose story about, God, I don't know, like washing your car, right? And you can take it and get it detailed for $250 when you used to have to like wash in the driveway, or not having to cook meals, and like all those stupid stories that just kind of don't really provide any value to your audience except for to show them exactly what they lack, right? And that's I think it's better if we can help people see more positive things, right? And want to be pulled and feel compelled to take the next action rather than do it, like be pushed and do it from a place of fear and scarcity, right? I really dislike scarcity-based excuse me. I really dislike scarcity-based marketing because I think to assume or force someone on our timeline is not good for either party, right? That's going to turn into a terrible client, possibly refunds, headaches, complaints, different things like that, because they're not going to be ready, right? And they're not going to get good results, and it's just blah, right? And they're not going to buy stuff from you later. So why not create an ecosystem and a world and a business model that allows people to come at their own pace, right? Like imagine having a cool amusement park, right? And some people take the bullet train from the city, and some people take a car, and some people take a bike, right? Some people, make a big event out of it, and it takes them a while to plan. Who knows? Everybody has their own journey that they're going on, their own pace that works for them, and trying to force someone to do it before they're ready never works out well. Look at any point with anything in your life where it's, you try to do it too soon or try to force someone too soon, especially like relationships, all the time in relationships. And, if you, just stop and think for a second, like from a completely selfish standpoint, it's much better to create content and copy and sales messages and offers and things like that allow people to opt in when they're ready. And I think that's something that, especially in the coaching industry and all of that kind of online industry, if you do that, you will see your advertising costs drop. You will see your customers buy more things. You'll have happier customers. You'll have less support issues, all those different things, because people will be excited to buy your stuff and then will go out of their way to be good customers, right? And I can say that from a personal experience. I have people that I really enjoy when they pitch something, right? Their whole sales process, their whole promotion offer process is just a very fun experience. And I get value from that because then I also use that in how I think about copy and how I think about writing, how I think about marketing. So, if you can provide your audience with an experience that they actually enjoy going through, you're going to have them for a lot longer, and that goes the same for the content. And why I believe that putting out more content is a good thing, more authentic content where you're just talking into a camera, talking to a buddy, preferably, because that's a little bit more fun, a lot more fun, and a lot easier than this, right? I'm on day 5 of my 100-day challenge here, and I'm doing it at 6:30 in the evening, when I would much rather have done it in the morning. And I noticed that I put it off for several hours in the afternoon because I just kind of ran out of energy. I was doing a bunch of other stuff today, and I was like, oh, I really don't want to do this. So I'm proud of myself for sitting down and doing this. For future reference, though, I will be doing this earlier in the morning, making it easier on myself. Oh, this is a great one. I think this is. Oh, hold on. To become a good writer, I had to forget everything I learned about writing from school, right? And I think that's people's biggest problems on social media, and why so much of their content doesn't get any engagement, doesn't get people reading, doesn't get people watching, is because they start writing and they forget how to talk and try to do this weird school hybrid form of writing where they it just sounds weird, where they're kind of introducing this topic and just giving these straight facts, I guess, about it, and that's not very interesting to read. And it's much easier to just write stream of conscious, honestly. I love writing longhand. I have a Remarkable notebook that's fantastic, or just pen and paper, whatever. Write out longhand and just stream of conscious what you would want to say to their audience. Again, what would you say to a buddy who's experiencing this problem? You haven't seen them in a few years, so you don't want to just bombard them with what you do, but that you can help them. So how would you help get them to see that? And write like you would talk to them. Just do it like that. And especially use, throw grammar rules out. I, as much as possible, try to avoid commas. And anytime that I think there needs to be a comma, or Grammarly tells me there should be a comma, I try to turn it into a period and put it into a new sentence, right? You want to talk in these short sentences here, and short paragraphs where it's 2-3 sentences, 1-2 lines, maybe 3 lines here and there, and use a lot of white space. And you kind of think of that white space as pauses and breaks, right? So if if you want someone to go fast and speed up, you do a lot of short sentences that are all kind of on their own line. You know, people kind of go through that. Or if you want people to slow down, you put, you know, a 3-4 line block together, and that forces people to kind of slow down because they can't just jump through it, right? Because there's not as much white space and their eyes have to focus a little bit harder to read through that. So that'll force them to slow down. So if you're trying to tell them something important, a denser idea, something that you need to explain more, you want to try to condense that into a bigger block of text. But then also make sure to give some relief after that with shorter, easier to read sentences, again, with a lot of white space. Varying up that kind of pace and that tone where you jump from, like, you know, kind of introduce the topic lightly with easy stuff, and then slowly, when you get deeper into it, you can add in those bigger blocks, and then give them a little bit of relief again. It kind of becomes this roller coaster type effect where they have to work a little bit, work a little bit, right? Because people actually want to work for something, right? They don't want to be spoon-fed, despite, you know, like, things have become so convenient that to make it convenient is boring and blends in. Like, we want to work for our meal just a little bit. We want to have to climb up a little bit, but then we want to be able to go down, right? We need that break in the beginning. And the more trust you build up with that audience, you know, the more good content they give to them, the more valuable content, the higher you can get them to climb. I mean, look at Andrew Huberman, right, with Huberman Lab podcast. He has these 3-hour marathon podcasts where he dives into deep topics. Tim Ferriss, Iced Coffee Hour, Diary of a CEO, Chris Williamson, Joe Rogan. Like, all these people have built up such trust with their audience that they will sit and listen to them have a conversation for 3 hours. And sometimes on very dense topics or very emotional topics, very charged topics, things like that. Because, like, we do want to work for some of these things. So you have to give them a little bit of that. Like, you have to make them fight for their meal a little bit. So don't be afraid to write longer. Don't be afraid to get a little bit more dense. You know, that's going to make you stand out. And the other thing too, and the biggest thing I try to get my clients to realize is, if they're not willing to read a 500-word email or a 1,000-word Facebook ad or something like that, the likelihood of them completing your course or your coaching program, or like actually putting in the work to do the thing that you want them, like, that you know they need to do to get the change, to get the goal, whatever it is, like, they're not going to do it, right? They simply are looking for that easy push button solution, and once they get into your program and realize, oh my god, I have to do something, like, they're not going to be happy, right? If you try to make it super easy, then, like, that's what they're going to think it is. And the people who really want to get in right now, the 3%, 2%, 1% that are ready to go right now, those people will find a way, right? They'll go to your website and, like, click the buy button. They will book a call. They will DM you, right? Like, those people will do it. That's not going to be a problem for them. Those are the super fans, right? And I think the goal of all your copywriting, all of your content, should be with our aim should always be to make people excited to buy our stuff, right? I think if you aren't making products and services and things that people aren't excited for, you're gonna have a really hard time with marketing. Like, doesn't matter how good of a copywriter you are, it doesn't matter how good of a copywriter you hire, if you don't have something people are excited about and excited to buy, or they aren't excited to buy from you, it's going to be an uphill battle the whole entire way. And it's much easier in the long run to put more of that focus and effort on building relationships and trust with your audience and putting together something really, really awesome, right? Because if you listen to your audience and you talk to them and you really understand their needs, they will tell you exactly what they want to buy, right? There are so many creators out there who just ask their audience, like, what do you want from me next? You know, and they'll go out and do it and figure it out, and then their audience will buy it from it. It's such an easy model, right? You know, if you're, since I'm on the travel industry, I really need to go someplace. I haven't traveled enough in the last year. But yeah, like if you're a travel agent, start researching different places and making content about it and see which ones pop off, right? See which ones get the most comments and people are like, oh my God, I want to go there. Oh my God, I want to go there. And then you can slowly test that out by going deeper, right? Like that's when there's, you know, like when they raise their hand and be like, oh, Costa Rica, yeah, that looks great. That looks great. Like go deeper, right? Now you make some videos about the culture and people are like, oh, that sounds so cool. And then you make some videos about doing this hike and people are like, ooh, no, don't think so, right? And that way you can get that feedback and now you're like, hey, by the way, I just put together this trip where we do this, 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 and this. And everybody's like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. Like that's exactly what I want to do. And you're like, I know, because I've been creating content about it. You've been telling me the whole time with voting with your views and likes and comments, right? So that's where I talk about like just documenting your journey and what you're trying to do. That's it. Like people are gonna opt in for that, and the ones that won't, okay. Because here's the thing. Here's the thing that so many people don't realize is if you can get 1,000 people to pay you $1,000 a year, you have $1 million business, right? Now reframe that a little bit. If you can get 1,000 people to pay you $100 a month, that's a $1.2 million business. That's not too difficult, right? You know, and you can kind of slice it up any which way. Like, you know, if you can put together a few different trips, maybe bump it up to $500 that you make off of each person by putting together trips to, I don't know, ski trip to Colorado, or I'm just gonna ramble on there. So, cut that. But the point being is you ask your audience. If you have a conversation with your audience, you will build that trust, and they will tell you exactly what they want to see from you. And it's gonna make your life a lot easier. It's gonna make them a lot happier, and you're gonna be able to do all the things that you want to do. Oh, the last thing. I am a big fan of using the word but in my copy. I saw a video from the creators of South Park where they talk about how but adds a lot of interest and excitement and different things to a script or a story, right? It's like if you can put and then at the beginning of kind of like each new scene, you have a boring story. They did this, and they did this, and they did this, and they did this, and they did this. Like, it's boring then, right? So what they talk about is, and they did this, but this happened, therefore they did this, and then this happened, but then this happened, right? So it kind of makes it bounce around, and you can cover different things, and it adds that interest and intrigue where it's not this linear line anymore. It's like, oh, started to learn copywriting, and then wow, lost that one. Okay, let's go back to the travel agent example, all right? Let's say you have reached the level of success with travel agency, and now you teach other travel agents how to put together boutique trips that are one of a kind, right? And you're starting to learn copywriting here, and you put together this entire presentation on what you would do, and completely bombs. Oh, it completely bombs, right? So instead of glossing over that in the story that you tell, you add that in there. It's like, hey, like I decided to go like all, you know, I stopped doing trips, planning trips altogether, and decided to like teach other travel agents. So I put together this whole presentation, this whole marketing thing. I did this big launch, and everybody got to this webinar, and they showed up, but no one bought. And I was devastated, right? Oh my God, the story's a lot more interesting now. And then now they're going like, oh my gosh, I haven't ever done one of these webinar things. I've never planned a marketing campaign. Like I probably would not sell anything either. Like, what happened next? Like, what'd you do? Like, how'd you overcome that? Like, clearly you're successful if, you're doing this now. And if you're not, like, now I'm curious because now I have to watch till the end of the webinar to see, like, if you fix the problem. So using that but and adding in those missteps and the times where it didn't go right and the times that everything felt like it was falling apart, those are so helpful for building trust with your audience, making them relate to you more, making them, or helping them, showing them that you understand where they're at, that you've been there, you've helped people who have been there, different things like that. So, I like using the word but. So, I like butts and I cannot lie. All right. I got 10 more minutes here. Yeah, let's try this out. Sorry for anybody who's watching this right now. Alright. Let's see what happens. If you're an online coach, keep scrolling. Seriously, this is a private message for those of us who rely on the internet to provide for our families. Hey buddy, couldn't help but notice that you've been struggling to consistently create content lately. I know how tough it can be to keep up with the demands for running a successful coaching business while also trying to build a strong brand presence. It's a lot to juggle, and sometimes feels like there just isn't enough hours in the day. I've been thinking about your situation a lot. I've been in your situation, and I think I might have something that could help. I've developed a system. It's called the Content Buddy Framework. And it's been a game changer. I've been using it successfully for the last couple of years with a good buddy of mine. And he's really grown a good audience that's gotten him a lot of offers, a lot of great opportunities. Made his investing career so much easier. And basically, it's a process that helps you create high quality, authentic content without sacrificing all of your time and energy. Because really, all my buddy has to do is get on a 45-minute Zoom call with me twice a month, and we just have a conversation. That's it. He hops off, he gets back to running his business, and behind the scenes, my team and I take care of editing, throwing some captions on there, and putting it up to all the different social media channels, right? And the thing that we focus on is creating this vlog style raw content that's not polished, that's not highly scripted, not highly edited, because people want that raw, real, and authentic right now. They just want a face in front of the camera, you talking to your audience, right? Just like we're doing right now. And here's something I want to offer you, buddy, because a good buddy gives before he asks. So I want to offer, hop on a 6-minute call with you, totally free of charge, run you through my best buddy framework, so we get 5 to 7, maybe more, high quality pieces of content that are going to be something that you can use for a long time, that are going to build trust, authority, and really create the relationships that you want to have with the people that you serve. And the best part, they can put into this really easy to manage ad system that only requires $5, maybe $10 a day. That'll consistently grow your audience and get more people coming into your ecosystem and wanting to give you money. So, here's the thing, buddy. Love to hop on a call with you. Just talk about your story, what you've been through, what you're doing, how you help people, how are you making the world a little bit better place in whatever way that you're doing it. And even if you have no intention of signing up as part of the Content Buddy Network, that's totally fine. That's not what this is about. This is to spread some goodwill, to be kind, to help more people create content. And I just want you excited to start putting your message and your voice out there. And if this can help you get on that track, fantastic. Because know at the end of the day, if I provide you something that's really, truly valuable, at the very least, you're going to have nice things to say about me and maybe watch a little bit more of my content. And someday in the future, when you're ready, if you're ever ready, maybe you'll sign up then. But otherwise, until that point, I hope I can just provide something that you find entertaining, valuable, helpful in some way. But if you'd like to hop on a call, 60 minutes, totally free. Got all the questions planned out. We'll send them to you ahead of time, adapt them a little bit for who you are and what you want to talk about. But it's a really good time, and I think you'll really enjoy it. And I hope you click and schedule a call with me because I'd really like to hear your story. Wow, that was actually a lot of fun. So that was something I did actually script out. I am playing around with doing some scripted content here for more promotional stuff, right? Because that is something that I do, that is something I have struggled with in the past and am actively working on as part of this 100-day content challenge and building this Content Buddy system is self-promotion, right? So I'm going to start putting some more of those pieces together. I thought that was a lot of fun. To do something like that. So I'm gonna see how it goes as I kind of progress with this content stuff. I think it'd be a lot of fun to do more of these like journal entry type posts or get some like mood lighting going on, drop the lights down, play with a bit of that. I think that could be super cool to do. And have more fun with stuff like that, right? Because I think being funny and entertaining in your content can be really, really helpful. And I'm very situationally funny, but just to come up with a joke or to kind of like do it off the top of my head like this is not something I am great at. I'd love to do an improv class at some point, but until then, I think it'd be a lot of fun to do some scripted content that is a little bit humorous. I have a few ideas I've written down and I'm kind of working on and working out, so that will be coming around hopefully sometime in the next week or so. I've got a lot of copy work I'm doing lately, so that's kind of the other thing too is while I build up this Content Buddy network and really get this off the ground, I'm having a lot of fun focusing on just doing copy projects, right? And I can do as many or as little as I want, and it feels good to just write, to shoot videos and to just write and not have to do all these other tinkering, problem solving stuff and learning other new systems and blah blah blah. I've definitely noticed that my joy in working has gone up significantly since kind of embarking on this, since burning the boats, so to speak. Feeling very good. I have for a long time, and especially a lot the last previous 6 to 9 months, I was struggling with a lot of anxiety, every morning, just the whole morning, just vice grips on the heart kind of thing. It's it's a slog to get up and get going and get to work and do the things. And everything just felt like I was running with a parachute or a cement block tied to me or something like that. And I've definitely noticed now that I've jumped into this and doing the content thing and saying no to everything else, it feels really good. And I haven't really experienced that anxiety since then, and that's really nice because I have struggled with anxiety for quite a long time. So it feels good to be operating from a place where that is not a dominant feeling. And that will be my testimony for anybody who is struggling with that, to kind of really take a step back and see maybe what areas of your life that you aren't happy with, and make a really conceited effort to just jump all in. Pick your own 100-day challenge. Do something towards a goal for 100 days, whether it's, cut out soda, drink more water, walk, any tiny little thing, brush your teeth, I don't know, take a picture of something. Anything like that. So, until tomorrow, I guess this is all. Hey-o.